Hi everybody and welcome. We're making a delicious biryani recipe today. We're making boneless, super spicy chicken biryani, Hyderabadi style. Now the biryani, if you're not aware of it, is the king of dishes in India. It's spices with any kind of meat cooked along with rice, and it's very similar to the Spanish paella. Very similar, but it's typically made with chicken or goat meat, which is mutton. So today we're using boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I have about 4 pounds of them here, and I marinated them overnight in some very thinned yogurt with salt and pepper, just to give it a lot of tenderness and flavor. I will not be using the marinade when I cook the chicken, but we have it right here in our bowl. 4 cups of basmati rice. Now this rice will have to be rinsed really well till the water runs clear and soaked for about 20 to 30 minutes. And we'll be cooking that along with some of the spices you see in this plate here. 2 sticks of cinnamon, 1.5 teaspoons of shahi jeera, some cloves, green cardamom, about 15, and 2 to 3 bay leaves. So we're going to use half of this to cook the rice with, and the remainder of the whole spices will go into the chicken when we start preparing our chicken. For the rice, what you will need later is some food color. I have a yellow food color and an orange food color. You could use liquid or powder, whatever suits you well. We'll be coloring some of the grains when we layer our biryani. I have here also some Spanish saffron, which you can soak ahead of time in a 1/2 cup or 1/4 cup of warm milk. Just a few strands go a long way. I also have rose water, and this we will use in the end when we layer our biryani. In addition, I have a big bunch of cilantro coriander leaves, 1 big bunch of mint leaves. Now this we will be stripping the mint leaves and using just the leaves for the biryani. Now this is a super spicy biryani, so I have here for my heat about 3 tablespoons of extra hot chili powder, 30 Thai green chilies that we'll be slicing, 3 large yellow onions that I've sliced, 3 large tomatoes. I'm using Roma tomatoes, you can substitute it for anything else, 1 large lime or lemon. I have some ghee here, and you can alter the amount of ghee that you use or clarified butter. I have 1 teaspoon of turmeric powder, and here I have about 8 tablespoons of coarsely ground ginger and garlic paste. You can use store-bought paste or prepare this at home. Roughly about 2 tablespoons per cup of rice and chicken. So we're going to get started first by soaking our rice. I'm going to rinse that out really well and soak it in some water for about 30 minutes. And while that happens, we're going to get started with our onions. So I have a wok, a non-stick wok that I have heating on the stove with a couple tablespoons of clarified butter or ghee. To this, like I said, we're going to add some of our spices from here. Some of the green cardamom, cloves, cinnamon stick, and a part of the bay leaves. I'm going to reserve the shahi jeera or the cumin for the rice, and the rest of the spices will go when we cook our rice. So you want to give it a few seconds and do this on very low heat, or your spices can splutter and splash. Once you see them browning lightly, we're going to add all of our sliced onions. Now, how much you caramelize your onions depends on and will impact the color of the biryani, and I like to brown my onions really well. So this is going to take a while. Now to speed up that process, we could add a little salt, which draws out the water from the onions, helps it brown faster. We're gonna let that brown, and while we do that, we're gonna soak and then cook our basmati rice. As you can see, I've really caramelized those onions. It took me about, I'd say 15-20 minutes on medium low, but I really was looking for that color of onions, and all those 3 large onions has reduced to maybe a quarter of its volume. So what I'm going to do now, I'm ready to add the next set of ingredients, and before I do that, I'm going to set a portion of the onions aside, and we're going to use this as a garnish when we layer our biryani. So that's about a half a cup. Set that aside. My ingredients to go in next are right here next to me. I'm going to start with the ginger and garlic paste, and again, make sure that your heat's not too high. Spread that around. The objective here is to make sure that the paste cooks well. You don't want the raw flavor coming through in the biryani. Now at this point you can add a little more ghee or oil so it does not burn, and at medium low or maybe medium heat, keep an eye on it, just let it cook. It will take another 7 minutes or so to cook, and then we'll start adding in the rest of the ingredients. I've sliced my tomatoes here. I've plucked all of the mint leaves, rinsed it. I have my turmeric and the chili powder is ready to go. And that's it. I'm going to slice the green chilies, just have them slit and ready to be put in at the right time. It's been about 5-7 minutes. My ginger garlic paste has been cooking and frying for that long. All of the raw smell has gone away, so we're ready to start throwing in the rest of our ingredients. And we're going to start with the stalks of the cilantro bunch that you saw. Now, I know some throw this away or trash it, but I hate to do that because it has a ton of flavor. The only catch being it takes a little longer to cook, so you want to add that in at the beginning of the cooking process, somewhere right at the start, especially if you're making curries. That way it really cooks down and you can't tell it. You know, if you can't see it, you can't tell it in the dish itself. Along with that, all of the 30 or so Thai green chilies that I've slit. Remember, this is a really hot, spicy Hyderabadi biryani. The chili powder, because that needs to cook and get any raw smell out. The turmeric and some of the ghee so that doesn't burn. I'm going to give this about a minute before I add the tomatoes. Just want to get the raw smell out of the chili powder. And once we do that, we're ready to throw in our tomatoes and cook it the rest of the way. Throwing in our tomatoes. I just cut the tomatoes in half, sliced them as thin as I could, and that should be good. Now this really needs to cook down and disintegrate. We're looking for a thick paste-like consistency, and once we achieve that, we're going to put our marinating chicken in after squeezing out the marinade. You can add a little water in here, preferably not, so just lower the heat, let the tomatoes start cooking down. It will release some of its natural water. You can add a little salt. This will probably take about 10 to 12 minutes. chicken is ready to go in. Stir that well. You have a nice paste with all of the ghee leaving the sides of the pan. We're going to start putting our chicken in. First, before we put the chicken, because you're going to be touching raw chicken with your hands, half of the mint leaves that we stripped, so I've set aside the other half for garnishing. Half of it you want to rinse and finely chop it, that goes in. You're going to do the same with the cilantro. Finely chopped cilantro. I've lowered the heat. Now the chicken goes in. I'm going to squeeze out all of that marinade. We don't need that. It was just used to tenderize and impart some flavor into the chicken, which can otherwise be a little bland. That's 4 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, which I defatted and cut into rather big pieces. And as it cooks, it's going to reduce, it will shrink in size. Half a line. Some salt to taste. You want to be careful with the salt because we've been adding it at various stages. Stir it well. And I'm going to cook this on medium high, uncovered, till all of the water evaporates, the chicken is cooked, and the ghee or oil starts leaving the sides of the pan. So chicken is ready, and this is what I was looking for, a nice thick gravy where the oil and the ghee have started to separate, as you can see here. We're going to turn the stove off, and right next to it I have everything set up to start layering our Hyderabadi biryani. So we're going to be doing it in a roasting pan, and I have a roasting pan that is about maybe 4 or 5 inches deep. And this should be sufficient for the amount of biryani we have, which is 4 cups of cooked rice along with chicken. Now here I have my yellow food color, orange food color, some of the fried onions that we set aside. This is a few strands of saffron soaked in warm milk for a couple of tablespoons. The remainder of the cilantro and mint that I finely chopped, and some rose water. So with that all set and ready to go, we have the rice here at the side, and I have the chicken on the stove. So we're first going to add some of the rice and color it. nice yellow. Do the same for the orange. That's about 3 teaspoons of cooked rice. Let's add a little bit more. You want to make sure that all of the grains are evenly coated with the color. Okay. Now with Hyderabadi biryani, you want to make sure that the meat is at the bottom of the roasting pan. Spread that out evenly at the bottom. And then you can start layering your rice. Using a rice cooker is an easy way to get similar flavors without having to deal with par cooked rice. So that sometimes, if you're not an expert, you could go wrong. Saffron milk. of the mint and cilantro. And finally the fried onions. See how pretty that looks with all the colors. So once we've added all of the ingredients in here, you could add a dash of ghee on top or not, it's your choice. But we're gonna stick this into a preheated oven at 350 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 20 minutes, covered. So it's out of the oven. See how pretty that looks. We're going to give it a gentle stir and serve it in our plate. You want to make sure that the chicken coats the rice very well. And if you give it time, you will have everything well distributed and coated and mixed up here. Some of that colored rice and fried onions right on top. So here you have it, a delicious boneless spicy chicken biryani Hyderabadi style. Enjoy.